Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon. Welcome to the Bibb County School District. I'm Steve Jones, Executive Officer of School Improvement here in the Bibb County School District. I have joining me 6 phenomenal principals out of the 38 principals that we have in Bibb County. Today, our topic is the role of the principal supervisor, the executive officer. Do you have a shared vision or do you have isolated thinking? I want you to think about that. Do you have a shared vision of teaching and learning, or are you on an island by yourself with isolated thinking? Today, we're going to dig deeper into what a shared vision of teaching and learning is and the impact that it makes on your instructional setting. So joining me today, we have none other than Dr. Coley from John R. Lewis Elementary School. We have Dr. Carmalita Dillard from Matilda Hartley Elementary School. We have Dr. Arrika Tunstell from Veterans Elementary School. We have, Lashun Crawford from Union Elementary School. We have Ms. Donna Walker-Thompson from Northeast High School hosting us right here in this auditorium. And we have, last but not least, Bernard Young from Southwest High School. Thank you. They'll be up shortly. As we dig into today, we know the session logistics. First, the presentation. This presentation, simply email us and we'll send it out to you. There's also a link from us, from all of us, because we want to hear from you. So you'll simply have an opportunity to put your email address in and we'll send that, the PowerPoint, as well as any other pertinent information that you would like to have from us. Also, questions, please enter them in the chat box. Mr. Young will be here. He's not on the cell phone just playing. He's looking at the chat, reading the chat to see if there's some questions that we need to answer along the way. And last but not least, Godot will be sending a survey about this because they want to hear from you about the necessity of each presentation. So they will be emailing us next week. Now, what we believe, right here in the Bibb County School District, anytime anyone from Bibb County presents, you're always going to see the next 3 slides. We have a heavy focus on our values, our mission, and our vision. The values, that's like our internal, the gasoline for the car, which is the mission that gets us to the destination, which is the vision. And in Bibb County, our vision is that every student will demonstrate strength of character and will be college or career ready. So what we discuss has to be about us seeing our kids college or career ready and demonstrating strength of character. Now, another slide that we always show, because it's great to have discussion about this. This is another form of the shared vision from the district. Us going through this each and every day. Being Tier 1 strong, that's our ultimate goal. We have non-negotiables in the top. We have MTSS, we have personalized learning, and we have Leader in Me. Those are 3 non-negotiables that every school in the district must do. Then you have here in the middle, above the line. This is the line. We focus in Bibb County on staying above the line. That means any problem, any situation, whatever it is, we see it, we own it, we solve it, and we do it. Last but not least, results pyramid. And you're going to hear us talk a lot about the results pyramid and how we use that, the structure of the results pyramid to break down different things that we do in our districts, to help us improve our schools better. So now, our third slide, victory in our schools. As you may notice at the top, there's an overriding objective for our CCRPI to be greater than 70. That's collectively. That's not each individual school, but collectively as a district, we're working to move our district to have a greater than 70 CCRPI. Also, what you see represented here is our strategy map, victory in our schools. Listed behind me, there are 6 priorities that we all know and focus on. There are 5 strategic goals and 16 objectives. Those 16 objectives are listed in those white boxes. Anytime we have a meeting, if the discussion does not fit in one of those boxes, then it's not worth having a meeting. So today specifically, we're talking about being a PLC. That's right, principals in a true PLC, not a sit and get information, but a true collaborative PLC, how we work with our principals with that. Also, learning and growth at the bottom, respecting our values. One of our values is competence. And what we found is that the shared vision and learning was a piece that we were not all competent on, but we've worked to become more competent in that understanding, which is the value that we have. And then last but not least, increasing content mastery. This shared vision of teaching and learning is helping to increase content mastery. If you're in this conference, you've seen one of these. These are our memorandums of understanding. As I stated earlier, there are 38 schools in the Bibb County School District. As an executive officer, again, a principal supervisor, I'm responsible for 13 schools. Those 13 schools, as the executive officer of school improvement, I'm specifically responsible for supervising principals who lead schools on the state's designated list. So one school is actually on sustainability, the other 12 schools are on the list. And so that's our focus. That's why we are here today, and we represent 6 of the 13 schools in our Zone Strong. You'll often hear us refer to Zone Strong. That's what we call the 13 of our schools that I supervise. Now, executive officer. What is that? Again, it's a principal supervisor. I'm responsible for the principal's leaks. I'm also responsible for coaching the principal. So one of the things you may ask is, why do I exist? As you'll see, I exist for each principal to create an academically challenging environment. That's my sole purpose as an executive officer, to help each principal create an academically challenging environment. Now, how do I behave? I behave as an authentic communicator. I'm a coach and I'm a lead learner. I'm not leading from afar. I'm not leading ignorantly. I'm constantly learning new innovative strategies to help principals. Now, third, what do? I coach principals to increase their capacity to produce desired results. Not my results. I'm no longer a principal. I was a principal for 16 years. I'm now an executive officer. I'm not leading their building. I'm coaching principals to help them get their desired results. And then how will I succeed? Or how will we succeed? We succeed by ensuring that I implement and create meaningful PLCs. I also develop highly trained principals. That's where the coaching comes in. So that's a little bit about our organizational clarity. If any of you all were on the last session with Dr. Kilcrease, she talked about re-imaging leadership. This is a part of what she discussed, executive officers and our role assisting principals. Now, I showed you this slide where our superintendent gave us the overriding objective for the district to collectively get greater than 70. But this is the 4th slide that I added for all of our designated schools or our Zone Strong schools. While it's good that we're moving in the right direction, we calculated that if every school improved by 2 points, then the entire district would have a greater than 70 CCRPI. But if you're on this call listening, just like we are, we understand that 2 points don't move us off the list. So we had to have a mindset to have hashtag more than 2 points. And with that, we talk about hashtag daily evidence. What does that mean? And I want you to think about this. Principal Caffelli talked about, is my school better as a result of me? Well, as we began to dig down into that, and we started thinking about how we needed more than 2 points and that we need to move students exponentially faster than other schools. To not only just remove ourselves off the list, but just because our kids need it. So we started talking about hashtag daily evidence. Are your kids, when they walk into that classroom, are your kids smarter and brighter than they were the day before? Each morning when I let my little girl out, KJ, when she gets out of the car, before she gets out, I say, hey, I need you to be smarter today than you were tomorrow. I don't care if it's a concept. I don't care if it's a skill. I don't care if it's vocabulary. I need you to know something more today than you did yesterday. And I need you to be able to articulate that to me. You can't just tell me that you just reviewed assignments. Oh, I just completed an old task. I need to know that you are learning something. Brilliance happens one day at a time. So I challenge our principals with the same thought. Are your students walking in those classes and coming out better than they were the day before? Sometimes, yes. Well, how do you know? But when we focus on the Bibb County, it's the through line. I ask them that because then I want them to go ask their teachers, are your students really leaving brighter today than they were yesterday? And then I want students to be able to articulate, yes, I am leaving brighter because I'm able to do this, I learned this today, and have that whole meaningful discussion. So hashtag daily evidence, digging down to the individual child and not just a collective whole group in the classroom. Now, you may ask, okay, we see you all, what are you all currently doing? Well, data speaks volumes. We know that a lot of times, all of us that are on the call in designated schools, when the district average comes up and you take your universal scoring, a lot of times your scores are at the back of the pack. Your scores are at the back of the pack. And we want our scores moving forward. And so one of the things that we coach as a principal supervisor, that I coach the principals on, is find data that shows that you are truly moving. Teachers in designated schools work hard. Teachers in designated schools may work a little harder than many other teachers. I mean, most of us say that, right? We say we work hard. That's what we say. We have to grind harder. Why? Because we know we have CCRPI scores. We know so many of the state assessments that come out, and everything goes right back to proficiency. Is your child proficient? So teachers have to do a lot, and especially now with what people call learning loss. Well, I'll tell you, we've already been experiencing learning loss a long time in designated schools. So this is not a new concept for us. We've still been having to grind. But one of the things that we did, we showed the principals, we blocked out names, but at our annual data review, we showed this slide. The green represents that we were above district average. The yellow represents that we showed growth, but we were not above the district average. And then the red represents that we were below, that we did not show any growth at all. So as you look at our content mastery, our proficiency, this shows, for example, this shows that this school right here had 6.5% more students to show progress and score proficiently on the test. So we look at this, we want to know our schools are really, really moving at a faster rate than the district average, thus moving at a faster rate than other schools in the state. When you look at the growth in the reading chart, we had just one area in growth that showed that there was a decline, but everyone else was a green and a yellow. But guess what? Because we show the data, because we have a zone-strong mindset, even where you see red, the shared vision of teaching and learning is pulled in to help move that and move it in the right direction. Let's look at math. When we look at math, you'll notice that there's only one area that we decline. Everything else we show growth and growth above the district. You'll notice here the middle school does not take this assessment, so that score is not valid. It's a zero because the middle schools did not take a score. Look at our growth though, you all. The growth in math, there's not one area of red. We are moving exponentially faster than the district average because they are working diligently in those schools. And so it's great to kind of show the data in a different way because you have to pick your teachers up working in designated schools. Now, as an executive officer, one of the things I focus on, this is the focus. Remember, I told you, we're not in a sit and get PLC. We're coming together, we're collaborating together, we're talking, we're communicating. It is meaningful work. And so this has been our focus this year. A shared vision of teaching and learning, and we're still in the progress of that. So if you have yours and you have it all together, we welcome you to give us more information to help us tighten ours up. If you don't have a true shared vision of teaching and learning, we want you to hear from the principals, these 6 principals, and then send us an email and we'll begin sharing information with you to help assist you. But we've also talked about acceleration. Yes, this is a big topic, even in designated schools. A lot of times we focused on the lower level learners, but we need to focus on accelerating students. Student clarity, that's another topic. That's an hour-long session that we won't be able to get into today, but we hope to be able to present that to you soon. MTSS for teachers, leading PLCs, improving coaches' performances, your instructional coaches, and then last but not least, integrity and reconciliation. Now, shared vision and learning. Today, this is the agenda. This is how it's going to go. After I give you the definition of what a shared vision of teaching and learning, the 6 principles are going to come up. First, we're going to have Dr. Coley. She's going to come up to talk about how she uses her shared vision of teaching and learning to guide and lead her PLC and also to model for her instructional coaches and assistant principals. Then we're going to have our very own Bernard Young. He's going to come up to talk about big ideas. He's going to talk to us about big ideas, being a first-year principal, and how he's had to use his shared vision of teaching and learning to kind of lay some things out to slow down. Then we have professional learning coming from Dr. Dillard. She's going to talk to us about a great implementation of professional learning that she's done at her school. Then we have acceleration. Again, we're focusing on accelerating students. You're going to hear from Dr. Tunstell. She actually has one of the schools with the largest PEC and largest ESOL, but her focus is on acceleration. Then you have data talks. We're going to hear from a phenomenal principal talking about data, what she does with the data and who she does it with. A great topic. And last but not least, we're going to talk about keeping this all together and sustaining this. What happens when you leave and a new principal arises? So now we're going to have Walker-Thompson talk about sustainability and growth as she catches the baton, how she sustains all of these components and still is expected to get more growth. So now, I know you want to know, what is a shared vision? Peter Singe, 1990, he talks about a shared vision. He has identified 5 disciplines to create a learning organization. He states that a shared vision is what you and other members want to create. So in this instance, in the educational arena, we refer to the shared vision for teaching and learning. Thus, what is it that you and the other members want to create and accomplish for all learners? How will students learn, and what are our founding principles? This is our definition. The shared vision establishes a laser-like focus on expectations. I'm going to stop right there. A laser-like focus on expectations. I want you to know everything that you do is laser-like. Everything that you do is an expectation. Now, the question is, do you have high expectations or low expectations? Then, the expectations for teaching and learning. It intentionally focuses on aligning teaching and learning strategies before, during, and after learning. That's right. Your shared vision focuses on before, during, and after. It creates a consistent reference point, a consistent, concrete reference point for academic and behavioral decisions. Effective pedagogy in the instructional setting is developed and sustained through a school-wide focus of the shared vision. So, I'll tell you this scenario. Either you have 3 things. Either you have no shared vision of teaching and learning, and teachers are doing their own thing. Either you have a shared vision, either you have the second one is, you have a vision, but you haven't shared it, so people are still doing their own things. Or third, you have a clearly shared vision of teaching and learning that everyone has a specific concrete reference point to determine everything that they do in your building. Let me tell you a story about a personal story. Again, this is the results pyramid. Guys, we know experiences foster what? Beliefs. They foster our beliefs. Our beliefs influence what? Actions. Beliefs influence our actions, and then our actions produce what? Results. Everything you do is getting a result. And every day that you open your doors, you are providing an experience. So this experience builds upon all the way up to the result that you get. So I want to share with you my story about the experience of not having a shared vision. I experienced intermittent success when I did not have a shared vision. When I had a shared vision, I experienced sustained success. Let me tell you a story. I was at a school. We worked. We were recognized in the state 2 years in a row for being a high progress reward school. We improved every grade level, every content area 1 year. I mean, it was phenomenal. We were doing different things. That was promoted to another position. Actually, I was promoted over here to Northeast High School. I was promoted. We left, and then things started kind of falling apart a little bit. And I was wondering why. I left. We did this, and we did this. And what I realized, I said I handed information to different people. But what I realized, although I was handing stuff. I was not handing a plan and a foundation for what learning looked like at the school. I did not hand them concrete reference points for what we were doing so that they could build upon that. And I vowed that when I got to Northeast High School, I would never do that again. So we made the Northeast Way. And so the Northeast Way taught us, it was a visual and it was explicitly written to show how students learn at Northeast. What was our method? What was our way for meeting the demands of the State Department, Bibb County School District? We summed it all up and called it the Northeast Way. But that was our shared vision of teaching and learning. And guess what? The last year I was here, that was a part of the 5-year SIG grant. One of the industry indicators stated that the principal fosters the success of all students by facilitating the development, communication, implementation, and evaluation of a shared vision of teaching and learning that leads to school improvement. So that was a major focus. But guess what? That was in there, but nobody ever taught me what a shared vision of teaching and learning was. So I vowed again when I moved into this position that I would make that a main focus, and that our principals, our zone principals, would at least know and have a foundation of what they were doing and why they were doing it. Now, the benefits of a shared vision: 1, it formalizes the focus of the school. 2, it identifies what drives performance, and it supports strategy-related discussion. It gives you a concrete reference point. Those are just a few of the benefits. Also, what's included? If you have a shared vision learning and you have some other things that we need to add, you need to have a visual model, and you'll see that from represented. You also need to have clearly written processes and procedures. Clearly write it out. Write it all the way out so that everybody knows. Then there should be an emphasis on leading and lagging data. Then the implementation of your shared vision can be measured. You should be able to measure how well you're doing that. And then last but not least, professional learning can be designed specifically to support implementation. Those are some of the things that are included. Now that you have your shared vision, it's about execution. The true value of leadership is actually in the execution. So now, I'm going to ask you again, are you executing a shared vision of teaching and learning clearly, or are you executing your isolated thinking? Or is it all in your mind, and that's what you're building is executing, or do you truly have a shared vision of teaching and learning? Right now, you're going to hear from a phenomenal principal, a seasoned principal. This is a veteran principal who, and her mindset now with the shared vision of teaching and learning, and how she's used this to guide her PLCs and be the lead learner and example for her coaches and assistant principals. Dr. Coley, come on up.
Good afternoon. I was a principal with the murky vision at the beginning of the school year. I remember Mr. Jones coming over and saying, "Do you have a shared vision for teaching and learning?" And I answered yes. And he said, "Tell it to me." So I quoted our shared vision of teaching and learning. And then again, he asked me, "Well, tell it to me again." And what I realized was that I articulated it a different way each time he asked me to share with him our shared vision of teaching and learning. So this helped me to begin to think more deeply about our shared vision of teaching and learning at John R. Lewis Elementary School. Our shared vision of teaching and learning is for us to provide authentic learning experiences that support the needs of all of our students, where teachers collaborate using the learning cycle, and we implement personalized learning strategies in classrooms daily. As I began to think about what would best show this in a visual model, I drew on my experiences as a former science teacher. As a former science teacher, we learned about simple machines. If you remember anything about a machine, simple machines help you multiply the force that you apply to an object. And so we developed the Lewis Learning Lever. The effort that we put in is our teaching and learning cycle, where our teachers deconstruct standards, we develop common formative assessments, we analyze that data, and we reteach and we extend. That is the effort that we put in. Our fulcrum, which is the central point of any simple machine, that is where everything rests. Everything rests on student clarity and teacher clarity. Much of our work this year has focused on teacher clarity and student clarity, making sure that teachers are clear of what the learning targets are and what the success criteria is for students to demonstrate mastery, as well as students understanding what is expected of them in order to be successful. We know that our load is the weight that we lift, and that is for student learning. And so we have the Lewis Learning Lever. We will continue to refine and identify those specific behaviors that we will exhibit in our school to impact student learning. One way that I began to do this is by using coaching cue cards. I modeled this process in our professional learning with our academic coaches and assistant principals. I modeled the collaborative planning process and how we coach teachers through our collaborative planning cycle, as well as how we provide in-the-moment feedback to our teachers to create that clarity. Each slide contains 2 visuals, but each visual is a different card. And we use these in the moment, in the classroom when teachers are teaching. To remind teachers to be sure to articulate the success criteria when students are moving into a task, we hold up the success criteria card. If we want to encourage teachers to link the learning to previous learning experiences, we hold up the card with the chain, and they know that that means to link the learning. If we notice that students may need additional feedback, and that feedback needs to be specifically related to the learning target of the success criteria, we hold up the feedback card. If we're in a classroom and we notice that maybe the teacher needs to aggressively monitor in the classroom, we hold up the 2 eyes. We also remind that we always articulate our learning targets, and we hold up the learning target card. And finally, the final one is for fun, but also it is very real that sometimes individuals need to be reminded to take a mental break. And so we use that card and sometimes ask individuals if they need to take 5. So we will continue to work on our shared vision of teaching and learning at John R. Lewis Elementary School, because we seek to empower and equip our students for excellence in leadership, scholarship, and citizenship. And now our next colleague will share her shared vision of teaching and learning.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Coley. Please. Okay, thank you. So, think about that, you all. She's pulled in her shared vision of teaching and learning. Not only that, but she's walking into a classroom, non-threatening environment to teachers, coaching in the moment, not waiting to do an evaluation, not going back to the room to discuss what's wrong. She's pulling up cards right then, leading teachers to the next areas of success. Awesome job. Next person that we're going to have come up is our very own Mr. Young. Now, this guy kind of reminds me of me. Big ideas all over the place. The big guy has big ideas, but we have to slow him down a little bit so that he can come back in and make things happen. So he's going to talk about his experience.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so when I was first given this assignment, Mr. Jones came over and explained that he was going to be my XO. So, I asked what an XO does, and he said, well, I'm going to be your coach. So I'm going to coach you up. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Is there anything I can help you with right now? And I simply explained to him, no, I'm good. I think I got everything going on. And so he said, whenever you need something, just let me know. I said, I think I'll call you when I have opportunities. So he left me with a line and said, well, I understand. You probably don't know what you don't know. When you get in this job, you don't know what you don't know. And so that kind of stuck with me. And so as you start to think about all possible knowledge, it breakdown of all possible knowledge is this. What you know is 5%. What you don't know is 25%. And what Steve said to me, what you don't know is 70%. Now this kind of puzzled me because I've been known to be the person who knows everything. And I thought I knew everything, but this chart is telling me that's only 5% of knowledge. So to move on, the one thing I can tell you what I did know was the fact that I was ready to take on this school. I had been there for 5 years. I've been in education for 18 years. So I knew what it took to move a school and to pump a school, life into school. And I had some great ideas and I was ready to move. I was like a young Simba, just couldn't wait to be king. So I knew that. And I also knew about you had to strategically plan in order to get started with your school year. So I took all my great ideas, 18 years worth of great ideas, and I planned to do those ideas. That's what I did. And I shared it with my staff. And I told them my vision. And I told them where I see us being and how people are going to look at us. And it was all inspiring and pumped up. And then the school year started. Kids showed up. And once kids showed up, after the first week, I have my first question. They found a loophole in something I asked them to do, and they said, well, did you think about X, Y, Z? You know, I know we're supposed to be doing this activity, but what about if a kid doesn't do this? So I said, okay, I can fix that. And I fixed it. I had an idea. I fixed it. So once I fixed that problem, I have a couple more questions. With the problem I just fixed and the solution, they had questions about that. It's just, well, what if we do X, Y, Z? Well, I told you, I explained to them exactly what I want them to do, but that's okay. I got ideas, great ideas. So when I fixed that problem, then everybody had questions, and everything was falling apart. So now I'm frustrated because I explained to you who I am, where I come from. We went through the whole results pyramid, so you know exactly what I'm looking for. So these activities that we're putting in place is going to help move this school. So I had a conversation with Mr. Jones that came over again after my data. And he said, hey, brother, you're doing a lot of great things at this school, but it's just not connected. What's your vision? And I explained to him what my vision was, and it sounded good. It was beautiful. He said, it's great. But do you know this is what you look like? And when I looked at this, that wasn't the vision that I explained to him. It just looked like we had a lot of stuff going on, and I was just juggling everything, putting pieces together. And so he said, you have to start with your vision, and you have to share that vision with everyone, because if you don't, and they don't understand what the vision is, all you're doing is just putting together a puzzle, a blank puzzle at that. So you're just putting pieces together. So the goal was to stop and slow down with all the activities you want. 18 years of activity, you can't do it all in 1 year. Slow yourself down. You got to create a vision. You got to share this vision with your staff. They got to be able to explain your vision just as much as you explain it, and be as passionate about this vision as you are. Then the kid, they have to explain it to the kids. And the kids have to be passionate about the vision as much as I am. Then the kids got to go home and talk to the parents. And the parents have to be as passionate about the vision as I am. And then out to the community leaders as well. So therefore, when a problem arises and we have to add a piece to the puzzle, we can always revert back to the vision. And they'll know what the piece fit. And they know what we're looking for at the end, which is the same masterpiece that we started out with. So that was my story about shared vision and how I took my big ideas to slow down and put the pieces together and make sure everyone's all on the same page. So now I'll turn it back over to our next.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. And keep watching out for Southwest High School. Keep looking out for Southwest High School. Big things are happening over there. You see the vision coming together. Things are going to happen at Southwest. Our next person that we have up, she did an excellent job. We focus a lot on MTSS for teachers. We talk about the MTSS for teachers. Sorry, you all. We talk about the MTSS for teachers. Let's see what we got going on. There we go. We talk about MTSS for teachers. You all, it's important to not just identify teachers that may need assistance, but you have to have criteria set, and then you have to have a plan of action to coach teachers to the next level. And so one of the things that I truly like about what Dr. Dillard is doing is that she's putting the coaching piece there. She's making a no excuse opportunity for teachers. So come on up, Dr. Dillard, and talk to us about how the plans that you implemented.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, and good afternoon. So what we knew at Hartley Elementary School was, just like we have varying ability levels within our students within the building, we also had varying ability levels for our teachers within the building. So in order to implement that shared vision, we had to model for the teachers what that shared vision looked like and how we were successfully implementing that in the classroom. So therefore, it meant we needed to do some professional learning. But before we did that professional learning, we had to identify our needs. So the first thing we did was we reviewed our school data. We looked at our team's observational reports. We saw that some of our teachers were struggling with standards 2, 3, 4, and 8. That instructional planning. Are we working hard from the onset with that instructional framework to make sure that we're prepared to put rigorous instruction before students? What are those research strategies that we're using to engage those students in the classroom? Are we differentiating to meet the needs of every child within that classroom? We see small groups happening, but what's really going on in those small groups? And then, are those classrooms really, really academically challenging for students? We also then looked at our community practices instructional rubric, looking at those instructional walks. We focused heavily on the delivery modes that were being offered in the classroom? Were those groupings actually based on data? Were we also providing opportunities for students to receive feedback from the teachers? And then, were we differentiating to meet the needs of students who were on grade level, above grade level, and below grade level? So at the beginning of the year, when those instructional rounds were done in those areas, we saw that a 3 represented proficiency, but our scores were somewhere in the high 8s and in the low 2s. And we knew that we needed to work hard to improve those areas within our building, because what we saw was that there were isolated pockets of success within our building, and some teachers were doing a great job, but we had some teachers who needed some additional support. We also looked at our school focus walk data, looking specifically at what are those teachers doing in the classroom? What are students doing in the classroom? What specific strategies are being implemented? And then again, what's actually going on in those small groups? And then we noticed that we focused a lot on our students who were struggling, but what about those advanced students? Were we really accelerating those advanced students? And who were the teachers that were doing a good job in doing that? We looked at staff perception data. We asked them, what can we do better to improve the professional learning community? Overwhelmingly, our teachers wanted to have the opportunity to go out into the classroom and to see their peers. And they wanted professional learning that was tailored to meet their specific needs. We also found that teachers felt they communicated better with their peers than sometimes they did with the academic coaches. And then we looked at student data. Who were those teachers that were really leading the way? When we look at our unit benchmarks, who were those teachers that were consistently exceeding the district average? When we looked at our star reading data, we know that the magic starts down there in the lower grade levels, and we saw some great teachers that had students that when you look at an average class SGP of 72, we knew that was an exemplar, that we needed to share those practices with all of our teachers throughout the building because our students were struggling with reading. When we looked at those first grade teachers, who was that teacher that already before the end of the fall semester already had students that were moving into STAR and were doing well on that STAR assessment? And we knew that PO needed to address student engagement, differentiation to meet all ability levels, those effective research-based instructional strategies, aggressively monitoring to identify what the student needs, and again, where the magic all begins, in the planning stages. So we decided we've got some experts in this building, we're gonna build capacity for everyone, so we move away from those isolated pockets, and we're gonna respond to what the teachers are saying in that climate survey. And then we will ensure a shared vision of teaching and learning within the building. So from that, our Promise and Practices Fair was born. We decided we would have a Promise and Practices Fair, which resembles a lot like what you see here today. We identified those exemplar teachers, and we featured them presenting sessions to their peers where we could have a true exemplar of what the implementation of our shared vision for teachers look like. We allowed this to build capacity for everyone, even our classified staff. We had a presenter to talk to them about the transition of going from classified to certified. We took a teacher who was doing excellent with those research-based strategies and shared those with their peers. So from that, we saw that after we shared those instructional strategies and modeled them for our teachers, when we had our next instructional round, focusing on those 4 standards, we came up to above a 3 in proficient for all of those standards that we had focused on. So we know our next steps are that we will continue to offer professional learning that is led by those exemplars in the building. The first fair we had, we allowed teachers to self-select those professional learning sessions that they wanted to go to address their needs. The next fair we have, we will send invitations to teachers to those sessions based upon that observed needs. So we move away from those isolated pockets of success to school-wide success and a shared vision of teaching and learning for all of our students. And next you'll hear from another of our Zone Strong leaders.
Yes, awesome. The fair, the professional learning was awesome at her school that day, and teachers were very excited, and that's what's most important. Though you just heard from 2 seasoned principals, Dr. Coley and Dr. Dillard. The next 2 speakers that you will hear are first-year principals as well. You heard from Mr. Young, who's a first-year but now 2 more elementary principals that are first-year principals doing phenomenal things, and their data is talking out loud. Dr. Tunstell, come on up with acceleration, and immediately following her will be Ms. Crawford with data talks.
Good afternoon. So part of our shared vision at Veterans Elementary School is making sure that we provide and develop safety nets to both enrich and accelerate our students. So we know that in order to accelerate and enrich, you have to make sure that your students are on your radar. And what better way to do that than to begin with your data? So the first thing that we did was we took a deep dive in our data. And what we found was 42.7 of our students were at the proficiency level, developing or higher, in math. And by winter, they moved to 51%. Now keep in mind, this data does include a high PEC population as well as a high ESOL population. In STAR reading, we began at 32.3% and we moved to 38.8% by winter. Now, we see that we are moving in the right direction, maybe not at the rate that we would like to, but we are moving in the right direction. So we took a deeper dive in data, and what we discovered was we needed to move from remediation to acceleration. So when we looked at our data, we discovered that that we had 250 students in the RTI process at Tier 2 or higher. Once again, 250 of our students were at Tier 2 or higher. We knew that we immediately need to put some things in place at Tier 1. Immediately. So we decided to come up with a VES acceleration plan to quickly accelerate our students. And as a result of this plan, what we found was 62 more students returned to Tier 1 and received acceleration consistently by February, and now we have a total of 128 students. So let's look at our VES acceleration plan. The primary thing that we did was we realized that we needed additional staff. We hired intervention and acceleration teachers to both work with our students during specials as well as work alongside the content area teacher on a daily basis to provide specific and targeted acceleration and enrichment to our students. So what did it look like? Collaboration, enrichment, and once again, acceleration. We put project-based activities in place. Cross-curricular planning occurs on a weekly basis, and also deep dive in data. You also see samples of the schedule, and you also see samples of our data team template that we review with our students and our staff also work with together on a weekly basis. So as a leader, what did it take? The first thing it took was maximizing finances. I had to decide as a leader, what can I live with and what can I not live without? And we knew that we needed to put our funding in people instead of programs. We utilized the programs that we already had in place, and we hired more people to provide that personalized learning with our students. What else did we need? Flexible scheduling, where we could fluidly change as we needed to based on our data. So our schedule changes consistently as far as specials and the needs of our students. What else do we need? Creative recruiting. We had to have the right people on the bus, but also in the right seat. We took our time with selecting acceleration teachers that really had our vision and the mindset to really push our students forward. And we have been working very hard, and to keep us moving in the right direction, we actually have a couple of consultants that we have now brought in, and their job is to help us to come up with different methods and strategies to continue to accelerate our students. So we know that we are on the right track. We are moving from remediation to enrichment and acceleration on a consistent basis. Thank you. And now, our next phenomenal leader, Zone Strong, Ms. Lashun Crawford.
All right. Good afternoon to everyone. I am the proud principal of Union Elementary. And I'm excited to share how my shared vision relates to accountability with school-wide data talks. Each data talk that we do with our students at Union, whether it's individual or it's whole group, we begin with our district's vision. And at Union, we are ensuring that all our students are college or career ready. Our shared vision, my shared vision of teaching and learning evolved when Mr. Jones asked me to share my shared vision with him, and I was excited. I talked about all of the components you see: data focus, positive culture, creating an academically challenging environment, and then he asked me, do you have a visual of all of that great work, all of those things that you and your staff have been working with Georgia DOE, working with this district, and working during the summer. And so I had to come up with this visual, and here you will see that not only do I have the three components, but within those, you see it's really clearly defined as to what we are actually working toward. So I will share now with you the data talks with students. This is a protocol because we're data focused, and this is how on December the 16th, after our second STAR assessment, I did a virtual data talk with our students in grades 3 through 5 to show students that we're working toward not only are the teachers and I are looking at their data, but also I wanted the students to know that they need to be accountable for their data as well. So these are all the slides that were in that presentation to the students. And so I asked the purpose of, we began with the purpose for our assessment. And so we assess reading skills, math, writing, but the true purpose of our assessments, and that's what I wanted our students to realize, is that it's to measure your growth. It's to measure how well you're doing so teachers and we would know how to tailor instruction to meet your needs. And then the next question was, how well did you perform in reading? And so what I asked the students before they joined the team session, they had to have their data notebooks, and they had their STAR assessments from fall as well as for the winter. And so we talked about the date, and we focused on these areas: the date, the bar on the graph, that was their performance level, and then we talked about the grade equivalent, and then that time duration. So when we looked at when I led them and facilitated the work, I had them to reflect, and that was really key. That was an eye-opener to a lot of our students because they didn't know exactly where they were as far as how well did they do on the second assessment. So that was the purpose of this data talk. And so I asked them to identify 2 actions that they would take to improve their score. Then this is the one that we're in the process of taking this month in March. And so after they reflected, I paused and I gave them time to reflect individually. And then I asked them and I challenged them to write those 2 actions that they would take. And I asked them to write it on their December STAR assessment. And so here you will see a copy of the STAR assessment, and when we focus on the time duration, they had to circle the time duration. They had to circle on the bar graph their performance level. And then we also talked about the grade equivalent, because I really wanted students to see, did the time that you spent on your test, fall as well as the winter, did that impact that score? And if you finished in 2 minutes, maybe that's why you maybe scored in the red as far as not being proficient. And so we had that conversation, and it was really, really deep. And so also we did the same process with math and all, and we focused on the same components of that STAR report, and we were able to allow students, if they wanted to share, they were able to unmute and they were able to share their 2 action steps. And the teacher said that really helped their students, because some of their students had the same actions that they would take. Use scratch paper was one of them. And so this was a copy of the math performance that was in the PowerPoint. And then we talked about the celebrations, because as we're at Union, when we do our web-based assessments, we always celebrate. And so the students know the criteria that they're working toward. And so all of these criteria, you would see one that says STAR growth reading, they had to score 45%, have 45% or more for student growth, and they would come to that celebration. So each one of these were different celebrations that they were able to come to. And so here, this is the data talk process, and what we did was we just took a few snapshots of the process, and you can see that the students have their data notebooks, and I did let them know, you know, this is private, put up your binder, put up the little part if you don't want anyone to see your scores, and I wanted it to be very non-threatening, and so the teachers are moving around, as you can see in the, hope you're able to see, the teachers interacting with the students. And here are a couple of more slides with the students asking questions and listening during that process. So this process was virtual. It allowed the students to monitor and be held accountable for their actions. And then, because we're data focused, I asked the teachers, you know, to complete a survey. And so here are a couple of feedback responses. Because like I said, and I didn't mention that this was a team effort. Not only was I was facilitating, but I did have my academic coach as well as the teacher, so this was a team effort. And then here some more data talk feedback, asking, letting me know that it was an eye-opening experience for students. And as I close, we also, for that STAR celebration, we were able to invite Dr. Jones, our superintendent. He joined us in celebrating our students for their growth with ice cream, and he got a chance to interact with the students. So holding our students accountable is just really important.
The data talk was awesome. 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders were highlighters in marking and tracking their time. Now the last person we have coming up is none other than Ms. Donna Walker-Thompson. This is a special one because this was my last year as principal at Northeast High School. That was her last year's assistant principal, and that was her at the bottom corner, taking the reins over, getting the torch, and expecting a bigger flame and more growth. So she's going to talk about sustainability and growth for our final principal position presentation.
And so we'll talk for a few minutes about how not only we're going to keep the light shining, but how we're going to let it shine a little bit brighter. And so today I'm going to talk really quickly about sustainability, and Mr. Jones touched on Northeast, but the highlights are we're really proud of the fact that we've been able to maintain our graduation rate above 80% for 5 years, and we are laser focused on, thank you sir, we laser focused on student growth. So my teachers wear a big G on their chest because we are focused on growing kids faster than any other high school in Bibb County, any other high school in the state of Georgia. And so a little bit about how we do this. But first, let's talk about our shared vision. And so this is my first year as a principal, and I'm coming in with the COVID vaccine. I'm thinking everything's going to be smooth, but just like the year before, COVID hit again. And so we were faced with a lot of challenges, and so we really fall back on that shared vision of teaching and learning when things get stressed. And so Peterson said it best when he says you cannot have a learning organization without a shared vision, and a shared vision provides a compass to keep learning on course when stress develops. And one of my instructional coaches brought to my attention, one day we had maybe 10 teachers out, which is about 25% of our staff, and we were having school. We were having school because when we get stressed out, we fall back on what we've been taught in professional learning, what we taught about teaching and learning, which is our shared vision. So what is our shared vision? When Mr. Jones was our leader, we, as a team, we focused on the Northeast Way, and coming in as a replacement or promotion as principal here at Northeast High School, we decided we were going to do the upgrade. And so our district has a rallying cry of Tier 1 strong. And so coming in, we wanted to really align the Northeast Way with our district expectations for providing strong Tier 1 instructions to support all kids. And so in doing that, we looked at the Tier 1 initiative to ensure all students perform on grade level. And the way that we do that here at Northeast High School is we deconstruct standards to determine our learning targets and create those success criteria for our students. And we also provide opportunities for successes and failures. When it comes to teaching and reinforcing positive behaviors, we talk about our monthly PBIS lessons and how we are a Leader in Me school, and our goal is to become a Leader in Me Lighthouse school. We look at consistent implementation of evidence-based strategies for literacy, which is a real big goal here. We focus on teaching our teachers how to teach our kids those core 6 strategies, and we also promote a personalized learning environment with a focus on student accountability and student ownership and reflection. And lastly, we collaborate. So we have very strong PLCs here. You get an opportunity in a minute to see one of our PLCs at work, but we focus on providing that professional learning that actually impacts student learning. Cultures are complicated and are built over time based on shared experiences that lead to shared beliefs, which motivate specific and general actions that yield results. And so I've had the privilege of working in this building for over 20 years. I started, and actually more than that, I was a student here, a student learner. And so I watched the culture change. And I know when we talk about the results pyramid, those experiences foster our beliefs. But what stands between our beliefs and what we actually do is the culture. So the culture is vitally important to your shared vision. The culture's got to want that to happen in order for you to go from those beliefs to those actions. So let's talk about some of the things we do here to sustain our growth. We really are focused on professional learning. Our teachers do professional learning once a week. And we follow a cycle. So we develop as a team, what does this look like in the classroom? And we use that information to explicitly teach the strategies to our teachers, and then we go out and we look for it. We gather data to determine whether or not we're seeing it, and then we plan those next steps. We also are focused on literacy. If you know, we had a school-wide focus on literacy from the fall to the winter administration of the STAR, and you can see that Northeast high schools focus on literacy and putting the data in front of the kids. So the kids had to take ownership of that score. We outdid the district by over 10%, and we met the district goal of having 65% or higher for student growth. We also foster reflection. So we can talk a lot about what the kids don't know, but when our kids are not performing, we really do have to look at teacher practice. So we spend a lot of time reflecting on the data and then what our next steps are. What did we do, and how what we did actually affected the data, and what our next steps will be. Lastly, this is our PLC work. One of our powerful practices is the tuning protocol. We are laser focused on those school initiatives. So when we do the tuning protocol, it is around our shared vision. We're talking about Core 6, we're talking about personalized learning, we're talking about success criteria, and you can see that as evident in our video. Do we have time? And so the video is there. I'm sure the PowerPoint will be shared. We turn this back over to Mr. Jones. Thank you.
Great. Go back in. We'll send you the PowerPoint if you request it. Again, there's a video just showing the tuning protocol. We've been doing that here for about six years? About 6 years at Northeast High School. So with that being said, we definitely want to know if the day was beneficial, if you have anything that you can provide for us as it relates to our shared vision of teaching and learning. Also, if you would like to receive information from us, please click on the survey. Dr. Coons has also placed a link in the chat box for you to fill it out. There are several members yesterday that filled it out from the presentation yesterday. We look forward to those today. Team, come on up. On behalf of Dr. Curtis Jones, our superintendent, the 2019 Superintendent of the Year here at Bibb County, VIP, not very important people, but we are victory in progress. We just want to salute you. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing from you.